Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as I was told, I had a voice radio. So today, we're completing the set. You see, earlier, we looked at one of the Gen 6 fossil Pokemon, Tyrantrum. So it's only fair that we finish by looking at the other Gen 6 fossil Pokemon. It's Aurorus. It's coming out in the Sun and Moon 6 Forbidden Light expansion. And ladies and gentlemen, it could be pretty gosh darn good under the right circumstances. Now, being that it is a water Pokemon gives it a nice little advantage. You do get Brooklet Hill. Although having said that, remember that it is a fossil Pokemon, meaning that it will in fact evolve from unidentified fossil, which is not a water Pokemon, which means you actually can't use Brooklet Hill to search for the basic from which Aurorus evolves. Which kind of sucks, to be perfectly honest. Like we said with Tyrantrum, still sucks here. You do, however, get access to Aqua Patch to accelerate energy, so not all is lost. 160 HP is fairly high, but standard in the Sun and Moon era. Think stuff like Solgaleo, for instance, although still not as big as me boy Mamoswine, who evolves from a water Pokemon that can use Brooklet Hill. I'm just leaving this out there, and we're going to carry on with the video. Weakness to Metal is a bit of a pain, or at least will be, when the new Solgaleo GX comes out, but given that that looks like it's not going to be till October now, it's not the end of the world. Duskmane Necrozma is a good metal Pokemon at the moment, but given that it gets a fairly easy one-hit KO anyway, it doesn't really matter, to be perfectly honest with you. Retreat cost to 4 is quite high, but we've got Heavy Ball, so that's all right. And do remember that even though you can't use Brooklet Hill to search out unidentified fossil, you can rare candy from unidentified fossil. Although I should point out at this stage that unidentified fossil might not do the trick, because Aurorus evolves from a sail fossil, and that cannot be seen on unidentified fossil. Maybe it will work anyway, or maybe it won't, and we'll get a new fossil in Sun and Moon 6. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to have to wait and see. Now, the first attack here is actually pretty gosh darn nice. It's for a water and a double colorless energy, but you can use double colorless energy and you can use Aqua Patch, so actually here you could potentially get this going in a single turn, which is in and of itself quite nice, to be perfectly honest. What does it actually do? Well, it does 50 damage and says that during the following turn this Pokemon takes no damage from evolved Pokemon. How about this is Glaceon EX? This is Crystal Ray from Glaceon EX. It only prevents damage, not other effects. Now again, we will need exact confirmation on that, but our translation has come from Antoine Boulay, who is a lovely man, and it very much looks like it is just like Glaceon's Crystal Ray. But protecting from evolved Pokemon's really quite good, because if you look at the format at the moment, it's really got Zoroark GX, that's an evolved Pokemon and doing a lot of damage in the format. We've got Golisopod, and we've got Gardevoir, and we've got Lycanroc, all of which are evolved Pokemon. Now, I should at this stage mention it's not all evolved Pokemon. Buzzwole is the other really big Pokemon at the moment, and that is not an evolved Pokemon. Plus, we've got things like Ho-Oh GX and Duskmane Necrozma, so it's not entirely evolution-based format, but it's still enough of an evolution-based format that it does make us look and go, hang on a second, this could have some potential. I mean, if we take something like a Zoroark Golisopod deck, which still won a 1,000-person tournament in Collinsville the other day, they really don't have any basic Pokemon that can take you down here. So an Aurorus against a deck like that could potentially absolutely smash. It is kind of like the Persimmon, though. The Persimmon from Ultra Prism, it only does the extra thing against evolved Pokemon. So just like Persimmon from Ultra Prism only adds damage when you're hitting an evolved Pokemon, this only gives protection from evolved Pokemon. Now, in terms of damage here, it's not enough. 50 damage for free energy isn't enough. But when you build in the extra effect of the attack, giving you that immunity from damage from evolved Pokemon the next turn, now it is good enough. And I should mention here that if your opponent changes their active, it's fine, because Aurorus is the one protected, but your opponent could always play something like a Guzma to bring up a benched Pokemon of yours, at which point they would be able to do some damage or take a KO, but they'd have to have a Guzma every turn. It's not looking like that's going to happen every turn. But I want to go back to Glaceon EX, because Glaceon EX hasn't been good for a little while. And the reason that Glaceon EX hasn't been good for a little while is because of Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele is a basic Pokemon that everyone is playing in their decks at the moment that can do a fair bit of damage. Now, Tapu Lele's got Energy Drive, does 20 damage for every energy attached to both active Pokemon. So if you've got an Aurorus with free energy on, Tapu Lele will do 50 damage, and that won't KO, it will leave 60 short, but it means they can do a fair amount of damage here. That's what people did against Glaceon. Lele is going to be the answer here. But maybe we can fix that with the second attack. 2 water, 2 colourless. Again, it's expensive. Again, we've got double colourless and aqua patch, but at least it's only 1 more energy over the previous attack. You do 150 damage, and then this Pokemon cannot attack the following turn. Now, with a choice band, you're hitting 180 here, and 180 is a good number to hit. There's a whole bunch of stuff like the aforementioned Tapu Lele, like Drampa GX, that will be one-hit KO'd nicely by this. But there's a whole bunch of stuff like Buzzwole and Zoroark, the 2 main Pokemon in the format at the moment, which won't be KO'd by this. But the one you really need to KO here is Tapu Lele. Like I've said, if you go against an evolution deck and start using the first attack to block attacks from evolution Pokemon, your opponent's first port of call is going to be using a Tapu Lele to try and take you down. And that sucks. We don't like this. We don't want this. This attack can get a one-hit KO on a Tapu Lele. That is nice, because that is what you need to do with this. Glaceon cannot one-hit KO a Tapu Lele. If it uses Choice Band, it can 2-hit KO a Tapu Lele. That, ladies and gentlemen, not ideal. But Aurorus can. So you sit there blocking all of your opponent's evolved Pokemon. They bring up a Tapu Lele to do 100, you add an extra energy and get a one-hit KO on Tapu Lele, at which point you probably get KO'd by an evolved Pokemon, and round you go. But if you're getting a KO on a Tapu Lele for 2 prizes, and then your opponent is KOing you for 1 prize, that seems like a pretty good trade to me. Now, I should mention that you cannot attack the following turn, but neither can Buzzwole, and that seems to be alright. Neither can Volcanion, and that seems to be alright. We've had plenty of Pokemon in the past that can't attack the following turn that have still been great. People just use stuff like Guzma, like Floatstone to play around, get a different Pokemon in the active, or even switch and retreat back into the same Pokemon. This is nothing to worry about. This isn't going to be the thing that breaks this deck. But I can't help feeling that we're going to come back to the same thing we did with Tyrantrum. It's a stage 2, which is awkward, and it evolves from a fossil, which is awkward, and the attacks are kind of expensive, although we do get double colourless and aqua patch, which really does help. And this is kind of where we sit. I love both the attacks, and you can see that, and it will fail against some decks. Against something like a Ho-Oh deck, you're just going to get smashed. Ho-Oh will eat this alive. But against a whole bunch of decks with evolution Pokemon, you can sit there blocking their evolutions, KOing Tapu Leles, and just having a wonderful time. But it's a very awkward Pokemon to get rolling. Having said that, I said Tyrantrum was worth a test, and something that you should be considering, something worth making a rogue deck out of. And I feel the same way about Aurorus. Yes, there's going to be some bad matchups, essentially basic decks, but any deck that revolves around evolved Pokemon, and there are a lot of really good decks at the moment that do, I think this is worth testing. I'm going to give it 3 Wassies, because that seems a little bit fair. But it is very metagame dependent. If we ever end up in a metagame which is all basic Pokemon, don't touch this with a 10-foot pole. And if we ever end up in a metagame which is all evolved Pokemon, all of a sudden this looks tastier and tastier. But as with all of these cards, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear from you guys. I genuinely do. I love reading your comments. So get them down. I'm going to go through and read them in a minute. And it's going to be an enjoyable part of the evening for me. Go nuts, but be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, you can do so by going to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.